back to the movie.
Yes.
Like 2 weeks after Deadcenter, you get this phone call, this opportunity. Heath calls you and says, "Hey, we might have some money." And it's let's do it. Why not? This is then
the COVID money changed because so right after we had that talk, Governor Stitt got COVID, and then that money was redirected. And so the fact is, the funding came from different sources and it started. Sure. But I met with Melissa and I met with, I believe, 11 or 12 advocacy groups from the Oklahoma Mental Health Association of Oklahoma, Depression, Bipolar, Suicide Prevention. And our goal was to meet with all these advocacy groups and see how we could take some of the things that they're dealing with and their constituents are dealing with and fuse that into our story. Yeah. And so the movie itself is very informed by all the different advocacy groups that then helped pay for the movie. Yeah. And the fact is, it is very much a Christmas dance movie, but at its core, it's a pretty serious drama about a boy and his father. And I feel great about that. I feel like we're telling a positive message about we all have mental health problems. Yeah. It's how do we acknowledge those? How do we get help for those? And so, so it was exciting. Now, I brought Melissa Scaramucci on as soon as I had a conversation with because she's my co-writer and she's brilliant. And this was probably the best experience we've had writing a script, even though we only had like 2 or 3 weeks. So we start in July, we write it by August, audition, start filming in September, finish October 16th, and have it in theaters by December 3rd.
That's 4th. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. So normally that's a year-long process that we did in 3 months. And part of it was I've worked on 21 movies, and so I know the process pretty well, and I also know the people that are efficient. But a lot of it is just we brought people together that made it happen. And so it's like I think I'm not an auteur, and I know you know auteurs. I'm not. I think I'm a good leader of creative people going in the same direction. Yeah. And I think that's kind of my skill as a director. And in this film with 70 dancers, 12 choreographers, and a really intense mental health message, I was lucky to have so many amazing partners make it happen.
And it's shot in Oklahoma City?
It's all shot in Oklahoma. We're in Medicine Park. We're out at Concho. Because of COVID, we had a 13-person crew instead of a 75 one. Yeah. And so the gaffer was his own assistant. And it still looks great. I mean, I think when you see it, you'll be surprised how beautiful it is with 13 people making it and 0 people grips and electric. I mean, because with COVID, you just couldn't have that big of a set. And everyone and we tried to hire some people that didn't want to do that were like, no, I'm not working on that small of a project because it's like a short film. We're like, well, great, then this isn't for you. Yeah. But the people who came on board were awesome. And then we wrote the story such that when you see the credits, there's 70 dancers, but there's never more than 9 at a time. Gotcha. And they're all in different locations. And so all of the dances were rehearsed separately with separate choreographers and dancers, and everyone was tested. And so COVID made a very tricky production. But it was also super interesting because, like, as a problem solver, and I'm a first AD as well. So the idea of how do you schedule all these people so that we don't have more than 12. We never have more than 3 people in a scene unless they're dancing. So the first 3 weeks, we only had one scene that had more than 3 people for the first 2 weeks of filming, and part of that was we scheduled it, because COVID scheduled it that way, so that by the time we got to the dance scenes, we'd done, we were at less risk, and so I don't know, it was awesome. Hee Chop-Hoos brings such a beautiful spirit to everything she does that it made and you and I are so a lot of film sets are very male. And very white male. Like in 2005, it was 100% white guys and a couple of women. And on to film sets here. And now they're naturally diverse, just like the world is, which is totally awesome. And Amy Janes and Kim Mott were our production managers. Richard and Amy Janes from Green Pasture Studios. Oh, great. Okay. So they own the studio out in Spencer. And she and Kim were just totally awesome. And then my other producers were he and Melissa Scaramucci. And so it was me surrounded by 4 of the nicest women on earth. So even my natural instincts to not be as nice were completely muted by the fact that they were all so sweet. And every time I'd get a little worked up, they're like, everything okay? I'm like, you're right. This is awesome. You're right. Yeah. So it made it so much less stressful because no one was building off each other's negative energy. Right. It was constantly reinforcing, hey, we're blessed to be working on this. We're lucky to be having a job. Right. And so relax. If there's a problem, let's solve it and relax. And, and then we hired Jacob Burns to film it. And he's the sweetest person on earth. And so it just made for a really nice group.
Have such a tight-knit group because of COVID, right? To have, everybody is, like you said, it could have been 75 people. Right. and you always get little pockets of negativity or something pops up, or there's always groups. It naturally gets segregated. With such a tight crowd, that has been really cool.
It was interesting, and it's funny because I mean, like the last 2 films I did were short films, and so this was more like a short film crew. And I don't think I don't hope every film does it. I hope we have 150 person crews every time, because I love all of my friends getting work. So it's not about, I'm not trying to push for that, but for this situation during the pandemic, it was the perfect environment, and the partners were just as kind and sweet as possible. And it made me a kinder person, and our leads were so great. I mean, it was interesting because we also didn't do a wide audition like normally. I'm working with Chris Freihofer or Ricky Bass or somebody, and just didn't, because we're like, we can't really even do a casting process safely. And here was the main thing. Film actors were getting a lot of work at the time. Reagan was here. So a few months ago, there were a lot of films, and every actor I knew was either auditioning or getting a part in these different movies. Out of Exile, Kyle Quokka Harris's movie had every manly man in Oklahoma was in that, and it was so funny watching him pose with Adam Hampton and Wilson Novice and all these awesome total studly dudes, and then mine are just like Fabrics and Dan. I was like, wow, we're making literally the opposite movie. We decided, and he asked me to. She was like, "Hey, our dancers are out of work, so my goal in making the movie is hire dancers." And so we decided. So we hired all dancers and theater actors for the most part, So I mean, like, there had been people who had been in a couple of films, but for the most part, we were trying to hire people who were out of work. And so that was very different. So I didn't get to work with a lot of my normal film friends. But we were trying to provide an opportunity for people who could not do their art live. And we think that so I feel really good about that. And what's amazing is how good the actors are. And the lead kid, Maximus White, is from class at SAS. And then his love interest, Layla Rickman, also goes to Classen. And they are just fabulous on camera. And then Michael Andreas plays his father, and he was on Broadway in a show called A Soldier's Play. And that's nominated for 7 Tony Awards this year. And because of COVID, that got shut down, so he was sent home. So COVID, while awful in general, really allowed for things to come together nicely on this movie. He wouldn't have been home from New York, Michael would not have been home from New York. The dance show would have happened. All these different things were just perfect time.
Makes it special, right?
It does make it a special
opportunity, and
it's a special opportunity. And I watched it again last night. I've now watched it probably 40 times. All the way through, and I like it every time because the spirit of it is what we were trying. We were able to convey a nice spirit, and that was the goal.
And a message.
Well, a nice message, which is you are not alone, and there are people here that want to help you if you ask.
So last week, we sat here with JB. JB was telling us all about it. The music in it. You guys collaborate on the music and work together on that, and he plays a part in the movie. And he said that he knew the original Carlos story from school when he was in like high school and stuff.
So Carlos,
which is amazing.
So the original Carlos went to Douglas High School, and he was kind of not flirting around, but basically toying around with gang life, and took a dance class that Hee Chapu's taught at Douglas High School, and decided not to go into gang because of that class, and went to school, and now he is the director of admissions for Langston University, and is getting his PhD. And so when she created the Hip Hop Nutcracker 8 years ago, she based it on him, and that's why she changed it from Clara to Carlos, because she's like, dance can transform lives, and I've seen it happen. And he is in the movie, and he has a cameo in the movie as kind of the head of the rec center there, and he's awesome. But having him on set and having him come to set and introducing it was like, hey, there is a real Carlos. And art helped real Carlos get his life on track and become a success. And so it allowed every person to be like, oh no, the guy that we're talking about actually lives. And JB is the greatest. I'm glad you just interviewed him, because he is such an awesome collaborator. He brings the perfect spirit to it. And so he helped produce the soundtrack. He's the rapping narrator in the movie, and he's just totally awesome. So it starts with him rapping, and it's very, very fun, and he's just great. So so and he's one of tons of different collaborators. Brand J Jackson, who's a jazz singer over in Tulsa, and who won Black Wall Street's Artist of the Year or Female Artist of the Year. She plays the Sugar Plum Fairy, and so she has a really big role. And then she also sings the kind of one single off the soundtrack, or one of the couple singles. And then Bobby Moffett Jr. is a musician from Tulsa that does the music.
I mean, For everyone listening, you can go to Dead Center and watch it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So it's
free.
with the funding, our goal. When we applied for the grant, it was we will get it. We will find a way to get it to Oklahomans for free during December.
Yeah.
And so, which is a very unusual release strategy. Normally you're like, I'm going to a festival, I'm looking for this, that, and the other. But it's like, no, within the budget, we have paid for the ability to get it out there and advertise it so that if you're in Alva, you can go on your computer and watch it for free at deadcenterfilm.org. And that was very important, not only to our funders, but to me. It was like, well, if we are making a message about positive mental health during a pandemic, we don't want to get it out in 2021.
Yeah.
We want to get it out there. And so what we're also very grateful for is Rodeo Cinema and the Oklahoma City Museum of Art. And then there are 12 other theaters around Oklahoma, including the Rialto and Alva and Circle in Tulsa, that are playing the film as it allows. And so I went to 5 screenings this weekend, all 5 at different places, and they were like 30 people screenings. So most of the theaters we love. It is. I wanted Max White to see himself on a big screen because he's a total star. And so it was awesome for me that he got to go to the Museum of Art with his parents and grandparents and cousins and friends and see that he is actually totally awesome in this movie. And so I'm very grateful for the theaters. But the fact is, my parents watched it at home because my parents are 82 and they're not trying to go into public more than necessary. And so our goal is that anyone can see it for free all month. And so it's at deadcenterfilm.org.
That's awesome.